Dr. William Ruto will be addressing a joint sitting of Parliament, and that's what we'll be focusing on to get to understand just how the Parliament gets to align to the vision of the President, the vision of the Kenya Kwanza government to steer forward the country. And so we'll be discussing that with members of Parliament, a member of the Senate, and two members of Parliament that will be joining us for this very conversation as we await to keep you up to tabs as to what will be the session later on this very broadcast or later in the day. It's good to have you. Asante sana for always keeping it TV 47. This is Morning Cafe and my name is Linda Alela, and so we'll be looking at that and so much more that has been captured in the papers this morning and generally what is making news. And as well, we welcome you to be part and parcel of this very conversation. It is important that we get to hear from you. The hashtag, as always, is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47 KE. Will definitely be sampling some of these very comments that you send us as we continue with the broadcast. As always, the Standard newspaper, the People Daily and the Daily Nation, as well as the stories that have been compiled by my team. And that's what we'll be looking at before we get to have the lady and gentlemen that will be joining us for this morning's conversation. Also, it's Thursday, and you know very well that when it's Thursday, very important that we keep fit, and so we'll be hitting the gym later on towards the last minutes of the broadcast, so make sure that you keep it right here. If you're at home and you can be able to just do some bit of exercise, get into your gear as we await for that begins at around 8:30 and all the way to 9:30. Let's briefly look at what the papers detail this morning. The Standard newspaper, as I have said, the front page of the Standard newspaper: no easy road for Hustler cabinet. Well, for some nominees in the executive, getting a nod from Parliament will definitely not be a walk in the park given the integrity issues surrounding them. And if they do, then well, in the trays in all the ministries are overflowing with minimal resources to get the job done. This is captured on page 4 and 5, and therefore, as the President addresses a joint sitting, there will also be conversations as to how they get to have, the members of Parliament that will be helpful in the respective committees to make sure that they conduct the vetting process of these ones that have had their names fronted. We're talking about the likes of Mithika Linturi, who faces a couple of raft of matters in court, as well as the likes of Aisha Jumwa. And we'll be getting to see just how welcomed they will be and the vetting process, whether then they'd get that clean bill of health at the level of the cabinet. And so we have other faces of Know Your CSs, and I mean, this is where they speak of on page 6, 7, and 8, the likes of Susan Nahumicha, that one that has gotten herself into the docket of health, Zakaria Njeru, lands and housing, Rebecca Bore, labor, Eliud Owalo, ICT and digital, as well as Penina Malonza, tourism and wildlife, and many others. Remember, we're talking about 22 cabinet secretaries, including Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who takes the prime cabinet position, as well as the other 3 forces that were incorporated, that as of course cabinet portfolio specifics on that very same ones. And so we'll be looking at all this to get to understand them more, the nitty-gritty details of their qualifications and how they come in handy to handle these specific dockets according to them. And on the other side, it's a relief for millions of Kenyans, as of course the Safaricom entity has decided to slash on the interest of Fuliza, one that very many people get themselves into. Safaricom has announced about 50% reduction in Fuliza tariffs, and of course transactions valued at less than about 1,000 will definitely enjoy waiver on the daily maintenance fee, and the first 3 days borrowers will definitely also get to enjoy lots of reductions in daily maintenance fee. A story captured on page 14 of the Standard newspaper. Another story, and I mean that is the biggest story on the Daily Nation, is on the death of Musheru. Why it will take long to know what really killed the lawyer. Family wants all members to be present before autopsy is conducted, as Raila Odinga called for international investigators to join in the probe. A story captured on page 15. And as I have said, it's the biggest story on the Daily Nation. Before we cross to that, man seeks court help to assist pregnant partner. That is a story captured on page 3, and the front page on the world or the international scene. Eritrean troops move towards a Tigray border, as well as in the sports world. Spain leave it late to beat Portugal, as captured on page 63. Those are the key stories right here on the Standard newspaper. The Daily Nation, as I have said, the biggest story, 13th Hague man to die. This list is quite devastating, and one then would want to ask what really informs the deaths of these individuals, and in most cases you will not get answers as to the same. It's a criminal puzzle, one would want to ask. Lawyer Paul Gisheru, who was on Monday evening found unconscious in his bedroom, was awaiting an international criminal court verdict in a few weeks on whether he bribed witnesses that were to testify in the collapsed trial of President William Ruto, or he was 52, did not have any serious ailments, and rarely left his house at the upscale Northwood Villas on Mutoni Lane in Karen, where monthly rent is a minimum of around 400,000. His son, meanwhile, was last evening still receiving treatment in hospital for suspected poisoning. That's a story captured on page 2 and 3, and that is of the Daily Nation, and a list of those ones that have been part of this very case, and the mysterious deaths that were reported. We're talking about the likes of Meshach Yebei, Joseph Maina Kang'ethe, the likes of George Thuo, Bernard Kimeli, Charles Ndungu, and many others, as you could see right here. 4 million to be removed from debt list, and Kenyans are set to enjoy cheaper daily fuliza costs, even as President William Ruto yesterday told the Central Bank of Kenya to speed up removal of about 4 million individuals negatively listed on the credit reference bureaus, that is CRBs, for defaulting on loans. It will be quite a relief, and indeed the common wananchi then would be able to conduct some of their businesses without having to worry of being listed, and even better, have that moment of being able to access credit without also worrying about the extremely high charges or the interest rates. Give up land or pay about 1.7 million for junk car, distressed man is told. A long-running dispute over 40,000 repairs on a Peugeot saloon car that is turning into a 17-year nightmare for 80-year-old Andrew Kithenji. A story captured on page 12, and we all understand how hectic some of this can be, where you get some of these services, you're not able to manage the prices, but then again the person who's worked on your car will definitely be out there to ask you to pay. Sometimes you also get a car loan and you're not able to service the troubles that come along with that. And on a different story that is on page 4 and 5, rewarding loyalty, ensuring regional balance, the need to avoid the fate of his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, who paid the political price for over-reliance on technocrats, and the eye of the 2027 election. Well, informed elections for President William Ruto's cabinet, and we'll also be touching on that alongside the members of parliament that will be gracing our set this morning. On the back page, Ex-Parents Association boss faces jail time, and 2 sets officials are fighting over who are the genuine office holders, which each claim to be duly elected. Mr. Mayo is accused of failing to obey court order requiring him to hand over office, and especially when we're talking on the question of education. And Mr. Mayo says our elections were done from classroom level to the national level. For one to be elected, they must have children in public primary and secondary schools, and we understand also the tough that has been there as pertaining to this, and just how instrumental this office is, especially when it comes to articulating the issues that parents face, their concerns, and that in regards to the question of education, not forgetting the latest as to just managing how best we can handle the crash programs that have been occasioned by COVID-19. Briefly, the People Daily on our front pages, we have race to cut cost of loans. Safaricom, KCB and NCBA cut interest rate on key digital facility to ease pain of high cost of living, as president then pushes for financial reforms to encourage Kenyans to save more. This move comes a day ahead of crucial CBK talks, as captured on page 4, and we'll be getting to understand how instrumental that would be in easing the troubles for a majority of Kenyans that also have been listed and are not able to access credit based on these listings. Ruto to set agenda for members of parliament's house opens, and contest over which coalition will nominate majority leader expected to rock first session of parliament. We're looking forward to that, and as I have said, we'll be having members of parliament that will help us decipher on this very matter. And Raila Karua hit out at Supreme Court, this in regards to their final submission and the detailed judgment as to what really was done on the September the 5th that got them upholding that declaration of the IBC chairperson and the IBC that Deputy President William Ruto then was the rightful elected, president, and to that level of him being sworn in and indeed sitting in that very office. These two, who are the key principles of the One Kenya Azimio Alliance, argue that then the ruling did not really uphold that aspect of law, and Ruto's poll victory falls far short of judicial standards according to them and failed to satisfy fair trial requirement. Those are the stories on the newspapers this morning. We cross over to what my team has prepared. We start off with this one. President William Ruto has announced that all efforts of drought coordination related issues will be handled in the office of the Deputy President to ensure efficiency. And Ruto was speaking from a State House in Nairobi, where he held talks with stakeholders to discuss drought in the country. Now, Ruto further saying there was no need for development partners to work closely with the county and national government in ensuring proper coordination in addressing matters pertaining to drought.
I want to appreciate the development partners. This particular group was gap that we are trying to close, and we know we are. So, Your Excellency, I'm very happy that they have been able to come and I want to welcome them. When we agreed on this meeting, we said.
And while officially opening a week-long 2022 SK Nairobi International Trade Fair at the Jamhuri Showgrounds, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua stressed on the government's commitment to boost agriculture. This comes in the backdrop of a country grappling with high food prices and pangs of drought. And as Stanley Nyaringita reports, the trade fair has attracted over 400 local and international exhibitors from diverse industries.
With the high food prices grappling the country, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has reiterated that the government is committed to achieving sustainable agricultural growth and transforming agriculture from subsistence to a commercially and globally competitive industry. While officially opening the 2022 ASK Nairobi International Trade Fair at the Jamhuri Park Showground, Gachagua noted that agricultural growth creates more jobs than any other sector due to its linkage to many sectors of our economy.
Food, just like any other imports, translate to export of jobs to the countries of origin. As a country, we have an opportunity to invest in production of these foods to maintain jobs and also increase income. This food and nutritional situation is of concern. With our annual production for major food crops, notably maize, beans, wheat and rice, falling way short of our national demand and consumption, pointing to reliance on food imports.
At the same time, farmers are set to have booming harvests following the government's commitment to implement the crop insurance program to a tune of 3 billion Kenyan shillings so as to caution the farmers from the adversities of climate change.
To date, the project has covered 1.3 million farmers in 37 counties, targeting maize, Irish potato, and green grams value chains. Further, the government with the support from the World Bank, is implementing the Climate Smart Agricultural Project in 24 counties of our 5-year period with the objective of increasing agricultural productivity and building resilience to climate change risk in the targeted smallholder farming and pastoral communities in Kenya.
Gachagua also pledged to boost the livestock subsector as it contributes towards food and nutrition security in the realization of Vision 2030.
Population of the country's daily cattle is estimated at 5.1 million heads. In the year 2020, milk production was estimated at 4.1 billion liters, valued at Kenya shillings 181.6 billion. At the current demand, the country is self-sufficient in milk production.
The week-long trade fair was opened on Tuesday by Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja and will conclude on the 2nd of October. The fair, which has been themed promoting innovation and technology in agriculture and trade, has attracted over 400 local and international exhibitors from diverse industries, showcasing modern and emergent innovations and technologies. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47, Nairobi.
And to our main subject of the day, President William Ruto will address a joint sitting of both houses of Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate. And President Ruto will be marking his inaugural address to Parliament in line with Article 132(1)(a) of the Constitution. And this then should be happening today.
President William Ruto is expected to address both a joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament tomorrow to mark his inaugural address to Parliament. Various MPs and senators have different expectations in regards to what will unfold tomorrow. This is as Azimio-affiliated legislators state that Ruto will not fulfill most of his promises while implementing his policies, citing his failure to have women form 50% of his cabinet.
To want to link yesterday's cabinet to those days when we were young and we could get girlfriends in the bush. We promise them that we'll buy them Mercedes when we marry them, and immediately they come to our houses. We cannot even afford a Mercedes. So we keep on telling them that we now have a bicycle, let us survive with a bicycle. Those were political promises that were being made. And indeed, yesterday we could see the promise of a Mercedes to Kenyan women, that 50% will be Kenyan women. We can count the ladies. We don't have to say how many are they. But Kenyans are able to see they did not meet the promise they did.
It means that he's going to reduce the cost of living. We have not seen that happen. In fact, the cost of fuel has gone up after the removal of the subsidy. He also promised that he will reduce the cost of unga. That has not happened.
On the other hand, some legislators felt that the cabinet slots were well balanced and every party had a fair share of the national cake.
The President really tried to balance the country, and all those issues, especially the issue number one of regional balance, which of course when you look at the cabinet, almost every part of this country is represented. Of course not satisfactorily as it is supposed to be, but you see, human, of course, is to error. And as you can see, the kind of balancing the President tried, you would say it is very satisfactory.
President Ruto is also expected to bring out a neutral approach in how the executive, legislature, and the judiciary relate, hoping to strengthen the doctrine of separation of powers.
We are actually expecting the President, as his first National Assembly or Parliament address, to actually give us the foundation of how the three arms of government are going to work together towards building this country.
The address comes after the lawmakers held a week-long induction where they were informed on their roles, state of the economy and diplomacy, as well as being trained on rules and procedures of the House. Muthoni Maina, TV47.
Now, only 2 members of cabinet are surviving in the Uhuru Kenyatta-led government as well managed to survive President William Ruto's acts as he unveiled his cabinet Tuesday at a State House. Outgoing Labour CS Simon Chelugui was appointed Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME Development, and his Energy and Petroleum counterpart Monica Juma making it back as the National Security Advisor. Moige William with that.
I am proud to announce the men and women who will serve.
President William Ruto is ready to go, and the men and women to assist him do exactly that have one last stage to go through for them to know if they will be part of the next government or not. But even as the newly assembled team awaits parliamentary approval after vetting by the National Assembly's Committee on Appointments, chaired by the House Speaker Moses Wetangula, 2 members of the team count themselves fortunate for getting another chance to serve in cabinet.
The team that will work with me.
Simon Chelugui and Monica Juma will serve in different capacities in actualizing Kenya Kwanza's manifesto.
The same support was it
in the previous administration, Chelugui served as the Cabinet Secretary for Labour and Social Protection, a docket he took control of in the year 2020. Chelugui, who at one time also served as the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, will now be in charge of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Ministry, which will oversee the disbursement of Ruto's ambitious Hustler Fund. In the list of nominees read out by President Ruto, Chelugui will be replaced by Florence Bore in the Labour docket if Parliament approves her. Also making a comeback in the recently unveiled list of Ruto's cabinet secretaries is former Cabinet Secretary for Defense Monica Juma, who will now be the National Security Advisor to the President. Before being appointed to a cabinet position in Uhuru's government, Juma served as the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs between January 2016 and February 2018. Garissa Township Member of Parliament Eden Duale will take over the defense docket if the August House approves his name. This is the third administration in which Juma will be serving, having previously held different positions in both the late President Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru's administration. In Kibaki's administration, Juma was Kenya's ambassador to Ethiopia, Djibouti, the African Union AU, IGAD, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Ababu Namwamba political maneuver also paid off as he made it to President Ruto's government, being appointed to be in charge of the Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts docket. Namwamba remained as Foreign Affairs Chief Administrative Secretary in Kenyatta's government until his new appointment, despite his open association with Dr. Ruto during the campaigns. While their colleagues like Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Peter Munya of Agriculture, ICT's Joe Mosheru, Environment CS Kiriako Tobiko, Eugene Omalo of Devolution, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, and the CS without portfolio Rafael Tuju openly campaigned for Azimio la Umoja flag bearer Raila Odinga. Chelugui and Juma did not openly get involved in the 2022 succession politics. Moige William, TV47, Nairobi.
After Hilary Mutyambai, the Inspector General of the National Police Service, proceeded on a terminal leave, President William Ruto has nominated Japhet Koome as the new IG. Upon approval by Parliament, Koome's appointment will be gazetted and later on he will be sworn in to take charge. Just what are the legitimacies surrounding his nomination? Flora Limuki with that story.
The nomination of Japhet Koome as the Inspector General of the National Police has fueled mixed reactions on whether the President can directly nominate the Inspector General of the National Police Service before a gazettement is made, as stipulated in the National Police Service Act 2012, since it's an independent body. And even before the dust settles on the appointment, the matter has found its way into the corridors of justice, with the President and the Attorney General sued over the appointment of Japhet Koome to the position of Inspector General of Police. In suit papers, Dr. Magare Gikenyi says the President's decision is unlawful and unconstitutional, since the nomination of the IG should be done by the National Police Service Commission. He has based his argument on the provisions of Sections 12 of the National Police Act, which gives a procedure on how IG is recruited, and Article 245 of the Constitution. It is important to note that in 2014, former President Uhuru Kenyatta assented to law the revised National Police Act 2014 on the appointment of the IG, giving the President the mandate to directly nominate the Inspector General. In accordance with Article 245 of the Constitution, the President nominates the IG, who is then vetted by Parliament.
Appointments of ministers.
President William Ruto has nominated Japhet Koome to the position of Inspector General of Police. Koome, if approved by Parliament, will take over from Hilary Mutyambai, who has gone on a terminal leave.
I have accepted that Mr. Mutyambai will proceed on terminal leave on the 6 months that he still has of his contract.
Koome is the current commandant of the National Police Service College, Kiganjo. He served as officer commanding police station at Central Police in Nairobi and was also regional commander for Nairobi. Koome was later moved to police headquarters to serve as the principal deputy of Deputy Inspector General of Police Edward Mbugua. Since the inception of the IG's position, there have been 3 officers serving in that position, that is, David Kimayo, Joseph Boynet, and Hilary Mutyambai, will now be joined in that rank by Japhet Koome, if approved by the Parliament. IG Mutyambai has been serving for the last 4 years has proceeded on a 6-month terminal leave following health-related issues. Deputy Inspector General of Police Noor Gabo has been the acting IG after Mutiambai picked him to perform his duties. Flora Limuki, TV 47.
All eyes are now directed to Ruto's loyal political allies after missing from cabinet unveiling. Among them is former Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok, Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro, former Mombasa gubernatorial hopeful Hassan Omar, nominated Senator Millicent Omanga, and Isaac Mwaura, who conceded defeat in the Ruiru parliamentary race. And as Paul Kirobi reports, there has been a cocktail of reactions about the appointments from Kenyans across the country.
A section of Ruto's political diehards who helped him clinch the presidency by traversing different regions are missing from the list, announced on Tuesday. Among the big names that missed in the list is vocal politician Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro, who is now serving for the second term in the National Assembly after being given a direct UDA ticket in the August polls.
I want to appreciate the people of Kenya for giving us the opportunity to manage the affairs of our great country for the next 5 years.
Former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar, who lost the Mombasa gubernatorial race to Abdul Somad Sharif of ODM, was also not considered. Former Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok, who served for the 2 terms constitutional, did not make it to the list of ministers, even after ditching Raila Odinga's ODM to join UDA. Some residents from Turkana region had wished Nanok could have been given the energy and petroleum docket or the internal security docket to curb the issue of insecurity that has been affecting the region. Former Laikipia woman representative Ketu Aruguru, who lost in the UDA nomination race against his close competitor Amin Dedi Mohamed, also never got a chance despite lobbying to have a share in Ruto's government. Nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, who was expelled from the Jubilee Party before being readmitted in the Senate during the tenure of former President Uhuru's government after he openly threw his support behind President William Ruto, was nowhere to be seen. Former Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala, who drummed up support for William Ruto in Kakamega region, also did not make it to the list. Pundits argue that Ruto's move to name his cabinet was pegged on performance of those he picked and their loyalty. Others who also did not make it to the cabinet despite performing major role in Ruto's campaign is former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, former Migori Governor Okoth Obado, Farmers Party leader Irungu Nyakera, economist David Ndii, among others. It is now a matter of wait and see on whether they will be given any other powerful seats in government. However, President William Ruto hinted on retaining the chief administrative secretary positions that were formed by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Paul Kirobi, TV 47, Nairobi.
A day after President William Ruto unveiled his cabinet, many have expressed mixed reactions regarding the announcement. Lucky Heriano with the details.
Very good.
A day after President William Ruto unveiled his cabinet secretaries at the State House, Kenyans have aired their mixed reaction over the same. In Kilifi County, some residents didn't hesitate to express their joy for Aisha Jumwa's appointment as the cabinet secretary in charge of gender ministry.
Aisha amesimama sana na William Samoei Ruto, amepigania sana na anadeserve hiyo seat.
Wewe ndio rais wa kwanza katika historia kutambua pwani. Kwa sababu tunakuta kwamba pwani hivi sasa tayari tuko na mawaziri wawili na pia tuko na yule speaker wa bunge na tuko na akina Madzayo wakiwa yeye pia akiwa pale bunge ana uongozi pamoja na Owen Baya.
The same can be said of those in areas such as Elgeyo Marakwet following the appointment of Senator Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen as Cabinet Secretary for Transport, with residents expressing optimism that there will be development in terms of road constructions and infrastructure development.
A lot of fruits. We believe, and the way Kenya Kwanza, manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, we are aware that according to the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, there are quite a number of thousands of kilometers of the roads that are going to be made in Rift Valley, that are going to be made in Western Kenya, that is going to be made in Northeastern, and now the person who is going to steer the dream of implementation of the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza in terms of infrastructure is our very own son, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen.
The sentiments are contrary with what Lamu residents feel. Some of them say that they were given few slots at the coastal region, urging President William Ruto to add them some more.
Si hazikututosha. Tunapata kututosha, at least pwani tungepewa, sababu pwani ukiangalia sisi tuko county 6 ndani ya pwani. At least wangetupea kila county watupe nafasi moja at least hapo, na sisi tungejiona kama wakazi ya pwani kwamba tuna mchango kwa serikali ya William Samoei Ruto.
As per the Constitution, Chapter 9, Article 152, after the vetting process is done by the members of the Parliament at the National Assembly, a Cabinet Secretary will take oath of office before assuming to office. Lucky Heriano reporting for TV47.
Also, several leaders sent mixed signals over the new cabinet as revealed by President William Samoei Ruto, with a section of Azimio, One Kenya leaders saying it lacks regional balance. The leaders have criticized President Ruto for failure to actualize the promise of having 50% of his cabinet be formed by women. His allies, however, insist this is the best cabinet, with nominees expressing their readiness to serve.
Professor Abraham.
A day after President William Samoei Ruto unveiled his cabinet, which will serve with him for the next 5 years, several leaders have sent mixed signals over the same. A section of Azimio leaders has slammed President Ruto's cabinet for what they say is lacking a national face, further claiming there was no regional balance.
The president, it is a cabinet where a majority of the people there are incompetent and they are not able to do the work of cabinet secretary. You can imagine Aisha Jumwa being in charge of civil service. Civil servants are one of the most highly competent and educated Kenyans. And now here they are being led by someone whose even education background is not clear.
Sawa ifanyike na vile leader amesema, leader of majority amesema kwamba tutaongojea katika vetting. Kwa sababu kuna wengi wako na active corruption cases in court. Wengine wako na kesi ya mauaji katika court. Ingesubiriwa ishe kesi kama imehukumiwa ama kesi imeamua vingine, ingeongojewa kwa sababu vile tunaambiwa kwamba wao wanaheshimu sheria. Lazima sheria iheshimike. Wale wako na hiyo case, active case in court, wawekwe kando mpaka kesi ishe.
However, Ruto's allies and the Kenya Kwanza Brigade insist that the number one in command did his assignment before appointments and his cabinet unifies the nation.
The president really tried to balance the country, and all those issues, especially the issue number one of regional balance, which of course when you look at the cabinet, almost every part of this country is represented. Of course not satisfactorily as it is supposed to be, but you see, human, of course, is to error. And as you can see, the kind of balancing the president tried, you would say it is very satisfactory.
It's a good initiative towards the right direction. I also want to believe we are going to have more cabinet permanent secretaries, and I think that is also going to be populated by the gender parity. And I am so much confidence that His Excellency is going to do it, because once he promises, he will always try his best to deliver it.
On the creation of the powerful Prime Cabinet Secretary and Chief Minister position handed to ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, the Azimio leaders have termed it as hot air and unconstitutional. Further, they claimed that the lack of clarity on the roles of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and that of Chief Minister is a ticking time bomb.
President of my county, that he's been given an appointment which is not in the constitution, an appointment whose duties clearly clash with those duties of deputy president. So I think if the president was very fair with my constituent, Honorable Musalia, he should have given him a substantive ministry. As it is now, Mudavadi probably will sit in the cabinet the same way Raphael Tuju was sitting in Honorable Uhuru's cabinet.
All that is a mouthful for nothing. What he is essentially done is to make Musalia Mudavadi a cabinet secretary without portfolio. Forget about all those titles. CG Prime, what? CG what? Those are neither here nor there. If we look at the Constitution clearly, a plain reading of the Constitution in terms of constituting of the cabinet, what he has done is simply to make Musalia Mudavadi some nebulous.
Further, Ruto has been criticized for his failure to deliver the promise of having women form 50% of his cabinet.
They did not meet the promise they did. Remember, it was being promised through an undertaking that I will deliver 50% of women. There's nothing like that.
Cabinet nominees on forestry and environment Soipan Tuya and Ezekiel Machogu of education have expressed their willingness to serve to propel the Kenya Kwanza government in realizing its goals.
Involving Kenyans on topical issues and making clear the plan of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. And so I am hopeful as a Kenyan. All the other Kenyans should be hopeful that the president is going to follow through his promises. The people of Kenya in that very key ministry. I know at this particular time is a very critical docket, a very critical ministry, and I want to give assurance to the Kenyan people that indeed I will be able to work tirelessly to be able to make sure that we are able to improve the quality of education in our country.
Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, President William Ruto has once again asked for the review of the Credit Reference Bureau framework, which he has termed as arbitrary and punitive and has blocked many borrowers from credit access. This has in the past elicited mixed reactions from banking experts who say it will lead to credit hoarding. The president has further indicated that 4 to 5 million Kenyans will be opted out of the CRB listing by November the 1st. Chepto Boit with that.
It's a sigh of relief to Kenyans after Safaricom gave Fuliza customers a waiver of 40% that they will enjoy as free daily maintenance fee for the first 3 days of borrowing after borrowing money for transactions below 1,000 shillings. The move by Safaricom has been lauded by President William Ruto, who says the 50% overall deductions in Fuliza, a project that has taken Kenyans by storm and has attracted more than 20 million customers, will benefit more Kenyans.
Access to Fuliza, the interest rate will come down by 50%. That is a step in the right direction. And many people will benefit from this step.
We observed that our customers would within 2 days repeat 50% of the M-Pesa transactions that had failed due to lack of funds. Fuliza therefore empowers a customer to complete the transaction when they need to, rather than postpone and miss the opportunity.
That the original intent for Fuliza to be a short-term facility for 4 to 7 days has evolved. Many customer M-Pesa wallets are now remaining overdrawn for 14 to 19 days on average. This was not the intention of Fuliza, as it embeds the wrong credit behavior and increases the cost of credit, which is a big concern.
We've demonstrated that we, working with others, can deliver over 2.1 million mobile lending, 2.1 trillion, Your Excellency, a 39% growth.
2 years after the launch of the Fuliza product, indicated that over 5 million Kenyans had accessed Fuliza in the preceding 12 months. 5 million.
Speaking during a joint press conference with Safaricom and CBA and KCB banks, President William Ruto has reiterated that his government is not against the Credit Reference Bureau's CRB, but its abuse and criminalization. Instead, he says alternative methods of listing should be implemented based on compliance ability. According to Ruto, at least 4 million Kenyans will be opted out of the CRB listing by November 1st.
I am very happy that between 4 and 5 million Kenyans will by beginning of November, they will be out of the blacklisting. That is very important.
Kenyans have lauded the move by Safaricom, saying it will better their businesses.
Sasa wale vijana wa chini wanaweza chukua ile mkopo kuweza kujikimu. Tunaona mali hali ya maisha ambapo umetufikisha. Kwa saa hii itabidi wamechukua loan, wameendeza mkopo,
wengi wataweza kuweka zile biashara, wataweza kuzimudu. Kumaanisha ni njia mzuri, na ningesema wengi waweze kuangalia njia kama ile iwe ni moja ya kufanya biashara zao zinawiri.
The head of state tasked financial institutions to come up with a credit model that will allow small businesses access affordable loans. He said it is possible for mama mbogas and boda bodas to enjoy low interest loans the same way big firms do. The commander-in-chief says all this is in line with lowering the cost of living, which has affected many Kenyans. Chipto Boyd, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now we take a short break and then we come back with the discussion.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning the price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet Njoki.
We continue to provide the platform that aims to inform and educate on business-related matter. We are here to ask all the relevant questions on your behalf.
When it comes to a catering business, do you need licenses?
Yeah, a lot of it.
And inform you what is happening in the business arena. Be sure to stay tuned.
All week, you look forward to the weekend. And we are here to help you make the most of it. Catch me, Karen Karini, on Fridays. And with me, Muthoni Maina, on the weekend.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
It will be a panel purely of members of parliament, the Senate as well as the National Assembly on this very special day where the president will officially address a joint sitting of the bicameral house, and we'll be looking to see what to expect. But above everything, eyes are now on them as to whether they're going to give a clean bill of health to those ones that were picked for the cabinet and other positions, or they are going to say no to some of them. Remember, we are coming from grounds where others have court cases, and therefore such matters really need to be put to consideration. But above everything, we also need to understand to how best this, conversation of majority and minority will be handled. Still a hula baloo, importantly, on the question of the committees of parliament. Very, very important that we have the formations of the same so that the business of the houses then would start rolling immediately, and that's what we'll be looking at this morning as well. We still have a continuation of the conversation of the cabinet, the people who were picked, the balance in terms of region, in terms of gender, in terms of age, in terms of loyalty, and so many other factors that were put to consideration. Above everything, if they are lucky enough to sail through, that is from the hands of parliament, then clearly they have a task to help the president address a majority of things that he has promised to the people of Kenya. Just how instrumental will his cabinet be for him to successfully attain some of these things? Honorable Senator, what allow us to laugh for a moment. You know why we are, yeah? And that is not to say that we do not deserve. We honestly deserve this.
Thank you.
It is one that we really, hoped and prayed and longed for. Not because, we just did that, because we understood and we saw, the material, the substance that is in this character in terms of, speaking the politics of the country, speaking the needs of the people of Kenya. And that is definitely what we hope that she will be doing. Gloria Oroba is a honorable nominated member of parliament of the Senate, or is a nominated member of the Senate.
Yes.
It is actually even a tongue twister because now how do I say it? But it's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Karibu sana once again. I mean, the very first time you are here after being appointed or nominated as senator. We appreciate and believe that you have so much in store for the people of Kenya. That is the level of Senate. You understand how crucial Senate is.
Very much.
Yes. And so, Karibu sana, just say hi to the people.
Well, I'm happy to be here. We were laughing, you know, maybe the viewers don't know why we were laughing.
But at least we have loyals of Morning Cafe who understand, and most of the time
we were laughing because I've been here as a political analyst, as a youth advocate, and like I think for like 2-3 years.
Yes.
Yeah, so now changing that title is like, hey.
I know. I was looking at my poster, and so I'm like, Hon, Gloria Orobas, nominated senator. It made me feel so happy.
It's been a journey. It's been a
journey. I agree, and we appreciate the stride. And sometimes we say that good things are rewarded, and definitely this is more or less like a reward. But
hard work pays.
Hard work pays. It does, and we have seen it. And most of the people, I am certain that they're not surprised, because you see we have loyals of Morning Cafe that watch every other time, and the times you used to come to articulate issues here, a majority of them would always say, you know what, we would love to have such a face in Parliament at the level of Senate, you know, representing the people. And true to it, their prayers have been answered. So eyes on you.
Wow. So
I agree. It must have been tough the first times, but I'm sure you will catch up. Third time, I remember the other time when the president was addressing that parliamentary beat of, was it Kenya Kwanza? You know, was it Kenya Kwanza or it was UDA?
It was Kenya Kwanza.
Yes, he was speaking about the first timers, we're talking about the monos, the second timers, the third timer. You're a third timer, right, Mahesh?
Of course, yes.
A third timer. So Karibu Sana, it's good to have you. As well, eyes on you, the people of Embakasi North, but above everything, the people of Kenya, because we understand that the parliament is hugely about the interest of the people. And even on that very day, the president reiterated this, that there's no point for a government, for an administration to be there without, you know, the acknowledgement and the engagement of the members of parliament. It is crucial that he does that, and therefore we understand how important it is for one to go back there for the second and the third time. It clearly means that the people believe that you're doing so much in terms of addressing their interests. And so eyes again on you, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Jimmy Gakuya. Salimia watu wa Embakasi and Kenya at large.
Thank you, Rida. Let me take this opportunity to salute my constituents and the Kenyans at large, wherever they are watching us from. It's another good opportunity to chat 1, 2, 3, because our country is just rolling immediately after the last concluded elections, and many various areas have been tackled, and especially the most critical one, which is cabinet. I think once the cabinet is rolled out, I believe that the rest has to follow. They have no big curious than what has now already been done.
And we've been waiting for the list of the cabinet. We appreciate Honorable Gloria. But yeah, had time.
You can just call me Glo.
Gloria, yeah, Glo, yeah. When you literally hear me not saying honorable, please, forgive me for a moment. I'll take a while to adjust.
Senator.
Senator. Actually, senator is much better. Yes, senator is Gloria, because you see now, it becomes a tongue twister, I agree. And so you meet with Boni Halwale. I remember the first time we hosted you with Boni Halwale.
Yes.
And then you meet with him at the level of Senate. Must have been interesting.
Yeah. He's our chief whip, so I mean, it's, you know, most of the funny thing is that most of the people within the Kenya Kwanza, I've worked with them in a different capacity during their campaign. So, yeah, I mean, that helps because it's like, you know,
there's nothing like this is a new face.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's actually, I'm very humbled by that. Yeah.
All right. So yes, that aside, that will be story for another day, perhaps a show. But here we are, the cabinet.
The cabinet.
Yes.
What about it?
Everything about it. First of all, you promised us alongside your boss that we're going to get 50% as women. You want to tell me you did not know what a roller coaster that would have been?
No, I mean, it's good to be ambitious, and I think the promise of 50% will still be met, because cabinet is not only the ministers. We still are waiting for the permanent secretaries, and if the position of chief administrative secretary is legalized, that also forms part of cabinet.
Yeah.
You have the advisors, as you can see. So I mean, I'm still very optimistic about it.
Yeah.
And from 11 ministers, we managed 7. And I don't think I think that's a good show.
That's a good show.
That's a good
Plus
show.
the others that were there, the likes of Harriet Chigai, the other opposition.
Let me just talk about the ministers. And on the ministers, one thing that I think must be brought to light is, when you're picking a minister, it's really about someone who understands the vision of the president, and most of the times you will find the people who understand the vision and are passionate about delivering the vision are those who sat down with him and started the political journey whenever that was.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of women who are skilled and who are competent enough to actually sit in cabinet, but politically, you can say they are not competent.
Yeah.
They do not understand the vision. They never really were passionate about whatever it is that we were selling to the electorate. So when you bring a technocrat who is competent and is skillful but does not understand the vision. The cabinet is supposed to deliver the political vision of the president. Yeah? And that's something we can't run away from. And I think it's important, I can't stress this enough, that yes, there are very many competent women, but they are not politically active. And they actually chose not to be, they chose to be non-partisan. They chose to practice political obscurity. And that is an area that now every time I talk to professional women and, in these different spaces, and they say, siasa, Mr. Kimaneno ya siasa, I'm like, that is the problem. Because, for you to be in governance and for you to actively plug into these spaces of leadership, particularly in cabinet positions, permanent secretary and things like that, you have to actually be actively political.
Right.
Politically. So the balance, or rather let me say the challenge, was not to find technocrats, women who have the skill, but it was to find the combination of a technocrat and at the same time who understands the political vision that we sold to the electorate and the things that we are going to deliver politically. Because when you're going out to sell the manifesto, there was a political element in it. And so the women that you see clearly here, they were in the journey.
They were in the journey.
Yes, all of them were in the journey. They understood the vision. They participated actively in one way or another throughout, I would say, at least 3 years. So you don't have to sit them down and start explaining to them, by the way, what is the bottom-up economy angle that we are trying. You don't have to sit them down and explain to them things like our manifesto in agriculture, for instance, or what we plan to do with the youth, or even within labor, because they know they were part of crafting that vision. So it's easier for them to now take their skills that they have as technocrats and apply the political vision. And that was the challenge. Of course, there is a regional balance issue, but for the women, I know for a fact that our president really tried. 7 out of 11 is a very good show, and I'm very optimistic that now when we go
7 out of 11?
Yeah, because 50% of 22
okay, well, you're talking about
should have been 11
right.
women.
Yes,
so 7 out of
11.
Yeah, scoring 7 out of 11. If you are going to give that a percentage, we've passed. So it would have been nice if we could get 11 who are with us throughout the journey and understood the political vision and also have the background.
Right.
So, and it was either one or the other. Either you had the political, people who understood the political vision, but they did not have the technical expertise.
The Millicents of today, Millicent Omangas of today?
I mean, for me,
you must have seen this making rounds and people asking, well, where is Hassan Omar Sarai? Where is...
I'm talking about women because it's...
I'm just saying that, and then I'm coming to the fact that people have also asked, where is Millicent Omanga?
I believe she'll play a critical role.
Somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's like taking me to, I don't know, agriculture.
Right. Still would not be.
Yes, I am vocal, but my expertise and my speciality and my passion is within youth,
Yes.
advocacy and maybe gender. So if those two are not available, you wouldn't just force me into a cabinet because I have been at the forefront.
Gloria, if we're going to look at those facts, you'd realize that even these ones that have been picked really have not been aligned with what it is that they have.
That's absolutely, that's not true. That's not true.
Gloria, we want us to...
That is not true. Yes. I mean, who do you want us to assess in terms of Aisha Juma, for instance? Aisha Juma, for instance, look at her journey in terms of now the gender agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, she has been on the forefront. She has been pushing for all sorts of things.
And in this case, we're talking about the women.
Yes, okay. I'm talking about the women. If you look at Soipan Tuya, she has been very active in the space of environment, by the way. Just that maybe because people looked at her as a woman rep, they don't know other activities around that. So she fits squarely there. Who else can we talk about here? Maybe who I know in terms of the women. Florence Bore. Florence Bore, by the way, she was a teacher. She started off as a teacher, you know. So, and if you look at her professional journey and in relevance to the Ministry of Labour,
has been accorded.
Yeah.
So that's a polite way of saying that then the president has considered that balance of technocrats as well as politicians.
It had to be technocrats, it has to be the politicians who understand the political journey. So, and then the combination had to make sense with the docket. So, I mean, when you ask me about Millicent Omanga, I'm trying to place her in a docket.
She's done lots of good business and all that. But anyway, let's take a short break.
And I believe she will feature somewhere.
All right. Well, we'll get back to Mheshimiwa to get whether he subscribes to what it is that Gloria argues, as well as we loop in Honorable Wanyunyi, who joins us shortly.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games. You have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning the price of land.
Don't miss out.
Let's learn about.
Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as we skooma the wiki.
It's not all the time you have to read your farm. Sometimes it's of benefit.
Starting this September at 8:30 p.m.
Hi and welcome to The Grind. My name is Violet.
Yes, the business of the 13th Parliament, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, or James Gakuya if you like, Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Honorable Gloria Oroba, nominated Senator, and we're delighted to have Honorable Martin Wanyunyi, Member of Parliament Webuye East, joining us, as well as Member of Parliament of Kiminini, none other than Mheshimiwa Bisau Kakai. Thank you so much for joining us us, gentlemen. And it is about the 13th Parliament, but most importantly, briefly just looking at the cabinet, which is the developing story. And just before you came in, I was trying to engage Gloria on some of the promises that they made. And I say they made because she was, and she still is, a foot soldier of the president, that is Dr. William Ruto, as well, properly understanding his vision and his plans for the people of Kenya. And under the Women Charter, really they tried to push for this. I'd love to know how far they are going with the Women Charter. But before that, Bazu, and I'm sorry I called you Bazu because we're talking about that.
You're free.
Yes, we're talking about that. So yes, the cabinet.
Rida, what I can say is that everybody was hearing to see a lineup of cabinet, and especially the areas that were most concerned is what we call regional balancing. And I think that particular area has been taken care of, because no single region of this country that has not benefited. If you go to coast, they have 2 number. If you go to Nyasa, they have 2 number. If you go to western, they still have. If you go to northern, we have Dwale. If you go to central, I think that that particular issue is quite in order, though still I have just seen some people commenting negatively about that kind of arrangement. Maybe probably every single county could have been expecting to have somebody, though the positions are lesser than the number of counties, so there could not be any miracle on how every single county could be able to achieve one. But I think those ratios will be also considered on the other positions, because still we are expecting to have the PSs and the CASs. Probably those who have not managed to get a CS, they may be having a chance to get either PS or CS. In terms of gender balancing, I will still also echo the same sentiment with Gloria, that this has been taken care of, though the president had a promise that actually it could be 50-50. Still, there was a brutal number of team which also helped him to get to where he is. And therefore, you realize that most of the political parties were being led by men. And at least it was important also to make sure that, in fact, those who supported him to be where he is could not be just washed away. And probably that's the reason why, in terms of that balances, we have just realized men are slightly above the other gender. But the other gender, having realized of 30%, is also a big achievement. At the same time, there are some top-up in areas of advisory, where we have seen also Monica Juma, somebody like Secretary to the Cabinet, and also somebody who has been an advisor to the President on the area of that other sector. I believe in that particular ratio, I have seen women being brought forth in a big number, a number that they cannot complain for now. Finally, in terms of maybe qualification of, because there has been a clamor that the president has mostly moved to reward his political allies, I would say yes, but that does not mean that the president has just appointed people who has know-how in this business. Because if somebody like Ndwale has managed the National Assembly as majority leader, what other position do you think that actually Ndwale cannot be able to perform? We have somebody like Alice Mwahome, who is a lawyer by profession and who has been in what we call the National Assembly, and I don't see any big issue there. We have been within the Uhuru's cabinet. We had been people like like Masharia, who has performed very well in health, because that was his first position. And later he was moved to roads. And he also did very, very, very well. So Masharia came from what we call the banking industry. But he performed other duties beside becoming a finance minister or so on. So I still believe that, in fact, none of these people who cannot perform the duties, because it is not miracle which matters. And once you move into a ministry, you still have a team of technical people there who will give you backup on how to propel your docket and how to manage it. So I still believe that these are people who can be able, and the reason why the president also has brought them forward is a team who understands his dreams. These people knows exactly what the promises the president has been giving to Kenyans. So they don't require a lot of lecture to know what is expected for this particular government in terms of its blueprint. And therefore, I believe this is a team which will just help him just to make the growth of the country quickly and possible in a haste manner that actually the president could wish to be. I still believe that, in fact, the team of technical, as people, majority will try to elude themselves. The team has not also not had been forgotten. You cannot miss 2-3 people from that particular sector within this particular team, because it is not 100% political reward cabinet. And I would just try to urge Kenyans that don't also blame those people has been given opportunity to serve from parliament, that actually we are going to have things like by-election. That is not an issue. As much as the person of the kind the president would have wished to be, assume that if the constitution we have today does not address the manner in which our current constitution addresses that you can be able to fish out of the parliament. There before, the cabinet has been always been nominated from within parliament.
Right.
So it's not
shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, it's not anything different.
Honorable Wanyonyi, your first time here, karibu sana. I do not know whether this is a time we can argue as Mheshimiwa would. Well, while we all understand that democracy is expensive and that could be justified, and we have seen this in the past, we're also coming in, or you are also coming in as a government with the argument that it's tough, and therefore the president trying his level best to cut on some things that are not really necessary. And perhaps that's why a majority of Kenyans would feel that we do not want to treat us to a lot of by-elections, but the by-elections we've been treated to in various specific areas. Just how much of a damage will that be, knowing how expensive elections can be?
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I think, first of all, I just want to clarify one thing, that in the current setup, we don't have government and opposition. Actually, the drafters of the constitution conceived that all of us members of parliament are in government. That's why we have the majority and the minority, and all of us are supposed to check the government. So I think the issue of the opposition was died with the old constitution. Secondly, I think the way we just alluded, democracy is a bit expensive. And what we wanted as a Kenya Kwanza, we campaigned based on a plan, based on agenda, based on a manifesto. And it's on that plan that the Kenyan voted for us. So the president, it did not really matter where he's getting his cabinet nominees. If it meant going to parliament to get the right person, we are ready to travel that journey. Because achieving this manifesto and our plan, actually it's a very, very ambitious plan that requires men and women who understands it, who have walked that journey, who appreciates that indeed this is a plan that the Kenyan people want, and this is a plan that will transform the economy and the lives of the people of Kenya. So I think really for me, the president going to parliament to get my good friend Senator Murkomen, Duale, and the Honorable Alice Wahome, for me, I think it was necessary. And spending some few millions to have this by-election, I think is not too much to ask. And if that will mean Kenya Kwanza achieving its plan. And I think, secondly, I just want to say, for me, the argument that it was a bit difficult for the president to balance politics, balance professionalism, and of course balance the constitutional requirement. The question is very clear in terms of issue of gender. It's so unequivocal that we only need a third. Yes, Kenya Kwanza, we promised a half, but at least we've been able to meet the constitutional threshold of getting a third of women into cabinet, and we still have so many other positions. So I think for me, we need to really appreciate the president. That somehow, from the onset, we have more than 30% in cabinet as women, and he has heard what people, the concerns of the Kenyans, and I'm so sure when it comes to formation of the PSCs, permanent secretaries, will increase. But a fundamental, which again is a question requirement, is in terms of the regional balancing. President has been able to balance the regions. Somebody like me who is coming from the Mlembe nation, we're happy that at least one of our own is holding the Ministry of Health, which actually you remember for almost 15 years now. What we've been holding is, I think, was devolution. And you know, devolution without even a SAL, it is more or less a shell. But for the first time, I think we are holding a very, very critical ministry that I'm so sure will be able to help in the transformation of our region. So I think for me, we appreciate the president, and we are hoping that the people of Kenya will support him on this agenda, and will support those who have been nominated. And for us as Parliament, we're also ready to receive the names and approve them.
And we'll come to that, whether indeed this was going to get a clean bill of health, all the 22 at that level of the Parliament. I might need to know whether the chief or the prime or the chief minister is going to be vetted as well. That will be interesting to watch. But we come to you, Honorable Bissau, and I'm glad that Wanyonyi speaks of devolution. And that ministry has been scrapped off. What does that mean to devolution? We've seen those ones that are pioneers of devolution, the likes of Oparanya, who have been rated to have performed well. I know, arguing that that was not a plus, that was not a good thing. Honorable Wanyonyi argues that, without the ESOL counties, you find that this is more or less like a shell cabinet. Just how crucial would it have been for them to scrap off the devolution or perhaps retain it? The docket.
Thank you, Linda. First of all, my congratulations to all the cabinet nominees, specifically Susan Nakumicha, who comes from my backyard. Really, that's a plus. Secondly, on your question, I think it's like strangling the mother when the baby has just been born. Devolution is very young. It just started. It's not taken off. So I expected that the ministry is not just named, but given sufficient resources and structural, needs to be able to propel devolution to higher heights. In fact, to fast track it. So to me, that is a minus. On this cabinet itself, at least I expected also to see a person living with disability. As much as we're talking about the regional balance, yes, the constitutional threshold has been achieved, but the fact remains that it's not achieved the 50-50% that the president talked about. Right. So again, that is a promise broken. Okay. But we hope that there will be some remedy as they come up with other positions. But the fact remains that the promise
was broken.
Okay.
All right, that's interesting. The promise was broken. I don't want us to delve much on that.
The promise was not broken. It wasn't.
You say that there's still space.
We are still looking that
this will be compensation. Let me ask you, there will be compensation. And Gloria has articulated that cabinet is not just the ministers or the ministries or the CSs.
Exactly. As I said.
But the promise was it was the CSs.
I'm saying
other. No. The promise was 50% of cabinet. Yeah, because I wrote that. I was part of it.
But I also would not want us to articulate and focus on that much, because in the event that it does not happen.
But the promise was not broken. That is, to say the promise was broken is it's premature.
As per where we are now, cabinet has been named, the 50-50% has not been reached. So where we stand now, it's been broken. Unless it's ready.
The cabinet has not been named in full.
Okay,
because unless PSS. Yes, and CSS, if that position becomes yes. So I mean, for you to say the promise has been broken before the complete that they have the complete cabinet, then we are speaking. You are preempting.
But again,
and on the issue of devolution as a ministry, the purpose of that ministry was so that it can fully support the county governments. But if you look at what they were doing, they were actually they were the reason why county governments were not thriving, because they were holding on to functions that should have been devolved. They were actually, you would say they were a barrier to devolution in terms of what the history of that ministry.
Okay.
So when it's 10 years into the constitution, yeah?
And we're 10 years into the devolution.
It's 10 years, yeah, it's 10 years into devolution. The ministry was supposed to support the transfer of all those devolved functions to support county governments to an extent where now you can say all the functions have gone down. And really, transferring functions is not rocket science. But what the ministry kept on doing was holding on to the devolved functions, holding on to the budgets, frustrating county governments to an extent where they were even now, the Ministry of Devolution went down to implement things that should be implemented by
Gloria, what would have been better?
So they were being a barrier. So, and I remember having this conversation when we were in Naivasha, when we were having and people actually said, yeah, and we had Anne Waiguru sitting there, and there are a lot of issues that were brought because she held the ministry at one point. And the question was, how difficult is it to just transfer the functions? And
what would have been best? Scrap off the office or retain the office, but make sure that it is well articulated to the people who are now coming to take up this.
In fact,
you need to do this.
When we queried about the existence of the Ministry of Devolution and what they are now doing, because transfer of dockets is something that even there was a promise from William Ruto that the one thing he's going to ensure is that transfer of all devolved functions would go to the counties.
Yeah.
Literally, that is like a 1 month affair. And then now when we spoke about if all functions have been transferred, then the existence of the Ministry of Devolution would be what? And they said that some of the policies still remain on a national level. For instance, like health is devolved, but national policies have to be controlled from a national level because you're still dealing with international organizations and legislation and things like that. But I mean, that's also an easy function because health in itself is a ministry. So it should be able to control the policies on a national level. So really, when you look at it now, if you transfer all the devolved dockets and things that need to be devolved to the county and trust that the counties now should be able to walk at least after 10 years of crawling and trying to get those functions, then really there is no mandate for a Ministry of Devolution to exist because it was mirroring what the county governments are supposed to do and there was conflict.
Okay.
So removing the Ministry of Devolution is actually in the interest of devolution because now the county governments are being left to stand alone and be able to now execute the devolved functions without interference.
We pick that argument and draw parallels to what those ones that are pioneers of devolution, had to say. And I mean, a person who's chaired the Council of Governors, Oparanya, would argue that that is not a wise move. Perhaps we'd love to understand.
I've been an MC here for 10 years, 2013. 2017 I was elected. We've been there. And I think for me, one fact we need to agree as a country is that devolution has come of age. And when you read the Constitution, even its own drafters conceive that devolution at one point should be left alone to be independent. Okay. That's why the Constitution actually, it speculates that we'll have two levels of government, the national government and the county government. So when you create the Ministry of Devolution, which ideally is supposed now to check to whether the national government is facilitating and implementing devolution as per the Constitution, it's not somehow, it's impractical. The devolution means cannot check the national and the county governments, or rather the national government to whether it's facilitating the county government. And that's why for 10 years, did you ever hear the minister or rather the CS of devolution probably even coming out pronouncing himself his position on the delay in release of funds?
I'll ask the same question I've asked Gloria. Yes. Is the problem with the people or the persons that were put there or with the office? Are we not going to get to a point down where we say, well, we have tried devolution and it's not working, so why don't we scrap it all the same, just like we have scrapped the devolution ministry?
You see, for me, where I sit, already we have the IBEC that's chaired by the Deputy President. We have the Intergovernmental Relationship Committee that also is chaired by the Deputy President. We have the Senate. We have the Council of Governors. For me, we already have enough structures to be able to monitor and push the devolution agenda. So I think really adding the means of devolution for me is somehow unnecessary.
All right, Mheshimiwa, we're coming to you, but yes, briefly.
You see, Linda, with all due respect to my 3 colleagues, none of them will talk ill about devolution having been scrapped.
We've not had a submission
by virtue of where we stand politically,
right?
The political divide we are in. But the truth of the matter is, government is huge. When you're talking about governors jumping from ministry to ministry, there are issues that the devolution ministry was bringing together to ease coordination. So to me,
like
at least it will have been retained.
Like which issues?
For another probably another 5 years more, to see that, you know, still devolution probably still crawling, to see that now it's also running and probably flying. So still, to me, that ministry was very critical. We're talking about the old debts that were carried from the county councils, you know, to county councils to the governors.
Yeah.
There are issues like governors themselves. When you talk, I was speaking to the other governor the other day, governors don't have even things like pensions, an example. Governors, there are projects that they cannot really implement. There was the issue of where county should also be allowed to be guaranteed, probably to borrow, to fast track some of the project. That has just taken off. And again, through the IBEC, which was being chaired by now the current president, when it was the DP. So there are issues that particular ministry, there might have been issues maybe on who was handling the ministry. There might have been a bit of lags here and there. But by and large, that ministry is still very crucial.
Okay. All right, Mheshimiwa.
In short, I just want to engage on the same, but on a very slightly different perspective. That having 10 years of devolution, I think the devolution has already matured. We cannot stand here to say that still the devolution is crowning. I am sure that in fact now everybody who contests is very clear what he needs to be. Whether you need to go to legislative parliament, whether you want to go to serve the public at that devolved factions. And the issue to do with this particular ministry of devolution. Me, I would say that, yes, now that there is this CUG, and I think the deputy president has been given that task as there before. Of course, that mandate was under the deputy president even during the Uhuru's tenure. I think because he has a big office, that office would at least retain a department of that particular ministry because of those technical people only who can be able to be advising the deputy president on where maybe 1 to 3 could be needed. Yeah. But we don't require a whole fraternity or a cabinet. But because the job is at the devolved factions. Okay. And therefore the job is not at the top. At the top, you just require somebody to coordinate. And I think that coordination is well represented by that CCUG. Okay. Yeah. So when the governors have at least a caucus, that will be able to link with the national government through the chair of the deputy president. I think it's, that's done, and they are good to go. And if there is issues, the governors will come up with them. Okay. Yes, if need be, then it can be the link. If really there is a deficit of something. Okay. Yeah. All right. You know, after today's joint address, definitely we'll be expecting to see Parliament rolling to action. I know you have, but now actually the aspects of it in terms of the formation of government, and Honorable Onyonyi here says we're just waiting for the names to be presented to Parliament so that we can approve of them and restart business. Is that to tell us that they will all be, and I don't know whether there's going to be a vetting process then, they will all sail through? We take a short break and then we come back to that.
Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. from depression,
I was under depression for like 2 years.
bipolar,
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
and even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any developer will not go without mentioning the price of land.
Don't miss out. Do you want the latest news on farming? We've got the WikiLeaks for you. Get it? No? Well, okay. Every week, we give you insights on different farms, from crop farming to animal keeping.
They're very hardy insects, yeah? The larvae is a very hardy insect.
We look forward to having an optimum production in maybe about 5 years. Yes. Yeah.
So we plant every week and we harvest every week.
Join Violet Njoki.
Most of the times you want to invite, members of parliament, even members of parliament that are women. They'll just be playing cards. They are not so confident to be on screen. And so I really understand that sometimes some of them will want to be technocrats, but when you tell them speak politics, they tend to run away from that. We definitely hope that we come from such spaces to better ones. And still in studio, we have Honorable Wanyonyi, Honorable Bisau, as well as Honorable Gloria Oroba and Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, as we unpack some of these matters that are playing out. Honorable Bisau, that it will be an outright sell-through for the 22. I don't know whether Musalia Mudavadi gets to that process of vetting. You will tell us. But according to Honorable Wanyonyi, as you've heard, for them as Kenya Kwanza, they are in the business of action. And so we want to have these faces, because there's been that general talk that the president has delayed in naming his cabinet. And so now that he's named it, and because they want to swing to action as the government, they will have these faces presented to them and they will give them a clean bill of health. These are individuals that we also understand have cases in court, some of them questionable matters of integrity. Will it be fair for the common mwananchi to have these people sailed through? And would it be an aspect of vetting in the first place?
Definition of vetting. You bring in a person.
Yes.
You've looked at the curriculum vitae, the resume, and you look if the person is suitable for the job or not. And there are many things that you have to look at as well, including, the Leadership Act, etc., etc. I think to my brother Anyonyi here, Mushimiwa, he says everything will sail through, but I can tell you it's not as he puts it. We're going to vet these colleagues, by the true definition of vetting, and, ensure that actually the picks from the president are the correct picks. And that's where we have to do, as parliament. So we'll have to vet, no malice, nothing like malice, but as parliamentarians, that is our job. Vetting the names that have been provided by the executive. So we will tutawapiga msasa, as they say in Swahili.
Yes, and the danger of not vetting, and perhaps that's sometimes the reason why we ask now, once this person gets to the ministry, or once this person gets to the docket they've been appointed on, and some discrepancies arise and they tend to showcase some essence of, not being capable to handle their offices, looking at different matters, then we start asking ourselves, did they really go through the processes of vetting? When you see members of parliament pointing fingers at the IEBC, the opaque team, as many would want to call them, then you ask yourself, did they not go through parliament, through the process of vetting. And so when you look at this, and perhaps then you find these faces presented to the House, and that they are sailed through on basis of parties or party affiliation, what does that mean? Do we miss out on the actual, performance, or on the actual role of the members of parliament of conducting proper scrutiny on these very faces and guaranteeing Kenyans, the right persons to leadership? Mheshimiwa.
One leader, the karama here will be the integrity of these candidates. Yeah. And this number of people who has pending cases in courts. Mm-hmm. But how I can put this matter is that there is the set procedures, and there is institutions which does those recommendations. Mm-hmm. And as per our laws, it's that very clear that one remains clean until when proven guilty. Yes. Because it's only by that time that the court will pronounce itself to the verdict, yeah, that will be against any member that can be now said that somebody is guilty of this matter. But as a matter stands, yes, if these candidates were being cleared to contest for various political seats, mm-hmm, how comes that it is us who will close or who should shut their right if already they have been cleared? Some of them, like Aisha, was cleared to contest the gubernatorial of Mombasa. Yeah. The rest, like Meduka Nturi, yeah, has been cleared to contest for governor of Melo. Then, how comes that if they won at their own respective, they could be governors, mm-hmm, of particular regions, and therefore that the issue of integrity could still arise. But if the stage that actually that scrutiny was to be done, there was a clearance, then you cannot tell the parliament is the one which has the broke to block them from serving Kenyans. Mm-hmm. When the time comes and when the court will bring us a different verdict, then the matter will take its course, right, as we arrive to that particular bridge. Mm-hmm. But for now, I don't see anybody who can be punished because he has pending cases in court.
And it's a constitutional right. The Constitution protects them. It clearly says that, well, it should be a matter of, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. But we also understand, Honorable Wanyonyi, that vetting goes beyond that aspect of integrity, the court cases that we speak of. And now that Honorable Bissau mentioned it, allow us to go through or just get to understand the definition of vetting, which is very, very important. Sometimes we think that we know some of these things only to realize that we actually don't. Number one, it speaks of make a crucial and critical examination of something proposals for vetting large takeover bids. And the second, which I think should fit best in our conversation, is investigate someone thoroughly, especially in order to ensure that they are suitable for a job requiring secrecy, loyalty, or trustworthiness. Perhaps these ones would appear to be loyal and that the president would trust them, but will the people of Kenya trust them? Will the members of parliament trust them? It's not just about the integral cases that some of them could be having at the level of courts, but generally vetting on all quarters. And we want to believe that the members of parliament have the capability and proper understanding of taking these individuals through these very processes. Is it a matter of saying that because the party leader has spoken, then who are we to counter what the party leader has said? Then we come in and give them a clean bill of health straight without undergoing that process of vetting, which we understand would take even hours based on what we've seen in their past.
I think the difference between Kenya Kwanza government under William Ruto, mm-hmm, and the former government, I think, of Uhuru Kenyatta, that time there was no consultation. If there was a bill, there was a motion, or there was names to be vetted by parliament, they were just forwarded to parliament without consultation. This time around, our president is saying, before I forward anything to parliament, there must be consultation. Okay. So for me, I think I can tell you for sure, since the election of the president, we've had so many consultations as Kenya Kwanza with him, something that actually has not been there. And so him forwarding these names to, or rather nominating these guys to cabinet was not just a matter that he did alone. He has consulted widely. And for me, honestly, we must give him the benefit of doubt. That if he said Aisha Juma to be nominated to be CS public service, for me, it has been out of wide consultation. And I think the way Mheshimiwa said here, who are we to say that these people are guilty? The Kenyan people themselves in the 2010 constitution said a person is innocent until proven guilty. It's not us, it's not parliament, it is the people of Kenya themselves. And that's why they created all these commissions and institutions to check these people. If, for instance, like Aisha Juma ran as a governor in Kilifi, and she was cleared by EACC, who are we to say that she's not fit within Chapter 6 of the Constitution to be nominated and appointed as...
Was she cleared by the EACC? EACC actually gave us a list of members of parliament. They think the IBC should not proceed to, you know, to accord them the right to vie. And I think her name was on the list, unfortunately. Well, the IBC as well says that unless proven guilty, we do not have the prerogative to proceed and cancel them from these very positions.
Yeah, of course, besides just giving out the names, what else did they do? Did they forward, did they go to court to stop their nominations by IBC?
Definitely no.
They did not. IBC itself cleared them. So all these institutions were created by the people of Kenya themselves. And that's why when our president was campaigning, there's one promise he made to the people of Kenya, that I'm going to respect this. I'm not going to use these institutions to frustrate those who oppose me, those who are against me. I'm going to respect and uphold the constitutional mandate of this issue. And I think whatever he's doing is just well within his own promise. And for me, if today the court pronounces that either of these nominees are not fit, or whatever cases are going on in courts are guilty, as a parliament, we will not approve that person.
Okay.
But so far, they are all of them, those who are having cases, are innocent. And secondly, I think, of course, when you are doing vetting goes beyond just Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
It also envisages the competence of somebody, of course, his own or her own fidelity to the government that she wants or he wants to serve. And I think really, when you look at all these nominees, in terms of beyond Chapter 6, many of them, you cannot, their fidelity to our president and the people of Kenya is beyond reproach, beyond doubt, because they have worked together with the president, they have campaigned together. Some of them have been governors for 10 years. So really, they embody the requisite competence that it's very, very critical in terms of having somebody as a CS, and of course, their fidelity is beyond reproach. Yeah. I
am still waiting for the four of you to tell me whether then there's going to be that vetting process of Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. But even before it gets to that, I think it's only fair that we also get to hear what the lady in the House has to say as to these processes of vetting. Very, very important. And therefore, Gloria Oroba, who's also who's with us this morning as well, should be able to tell us, because I've not heard your view on this, Honorable Senator, that these ones are going to sail through from what it is that Wanyonyi says. And I mean, Mheshimiwa here also would argue that really, aside from the cases that we have in court, there's really not much to hold these other individuals down, and therefore it could almost be a certain sail-through of the entire list of cabinet presented by President Uhuru Kenyatta. But as we all agree,
William Ruto.
William Ruto, sorry, yes. Hey, you see the way you, well, I understand. You know, there's that vigor of the fact that, you know, that is our president, as Kenya over time, yeah. And so President William Ruto, that yes, he gives this list and this presented to the level of parliament, but we all agree that vetting goes beyond these cases that we have in court.
First of all, having a case in court does not disqualify you for a job.
Yes.
Kenya. So
I mean, you are innocent.
We shouldn't even be discussing having cases in court. Because
that is why I said vetting goes beyond that.
But even vetting is outside of that, that's what I am
All right,
trying to correct.
fair enough.
That having a case in court, it does not, there is nowhere where it says if you have a case in court that you cannot, you know, serve as a public servant.
But on grounds of that, we have seen instances where people decide to resign. We have seen instances
yeah,
where people
for whatever
from,
reason, but it does not disqualify you from being
At
a
all.
candidate of a public service position.
Yes, yes.
And actually having a case in court proves that you have been operating in high-level spaces, because if you are not in a high-risk environment, then you are having no case. If your work is to just check in and you're an employee and you're just having having cases in court, actually, for me, if you ask me, particularly in the business world, it is to show that you have been operating businesses to a certain level, that actually the conflict was on a high level, that you need a third party, and at that point is litigation. So sometimes even when you're scouting for business and you're asked, how would you deal with conflict in the event that, you know, the two parties are not able to, you know, meet the fulfillment? And you would tell them, if you Google, you'll see I have cases in court, because we moved to litigation. We are law-abiding people. Okay. So it is even an added advantage in the business world. So
I like the way you switch this.
No, really, it is.
But
it
yes.
is. If you think about it, because the people who have cases in court are people who are operating high-level businesses, you know? I mean, if you're a startup, you have not engaged to a level with third parties that you might need a third party who is in the form of litigation to settle a dispute. So I don't think we should talk about that. Maybe if you are telling me that there is a person who has been convicted and is serving jail time, I'd be like, hey, in fact, that is even against our constitution. And even convicted and serving jail time, there is a limitation of how long you've been convicted. Because you can actually be convicted and you're serving, I don't know what it is, less than, I don't know how many.
Less than 6 months.
Yeah, less than 6 months, and you're still actually, you can
if you are a member, you cannot lose your seat.
Yeah, you cannot even lose your seat. So, and if people are uncomfortable that having a case in court, you should not be a candidate, particularly if you're a legislator, you have the floor of the House. Take an amendment to the floor of the House that now constitutes and says that tumeona hii maneno ya makesi, we are getting bad candidates, so we would like to amend this and this particular law. But otherwise, if you are within the law and you are rightfully a Kenyan and you have been shortlisted, really, unless you have been convicted beyond the 6 months, you are eligible for that position.
You see, the reason why this is coming up, Gloria, is because even before we had the Kenya Kwanza government, you know, out here, I remember the list from the EACC had a majority of faces, you know, in Kenya Kwanza. And the biggest worry was that are these individuals going to get to power and then they'll spend so much time handling these court cases such that they'll not be able to work for the people of Kenya. And you've had these complaints.
Remember, before we got here, institutions were being weaponized to be used politically. Yes. Before we got here, ulikuwa ukitoka una support William Ruto, EACC inatoka pia.
But in most cases, was it not factual that there was a case for Aisha Jumwa, there was a case for the DP, there was a case for Mithika Linturi, an active case for that matter? So in as much as it was politically instigated, reality is that these cases are in court.
Some of those cases actually propped up the moment these people switched allegiances and supported William.
And now they are active in court.
And now they are active in court. Because you know, once a case is brought upon you, unless it is withdrawn by the complainant or whatever, the case will exist. And sometimes the cases are just brought up to you know, kukuzima. So, and that is what we were talking about. We should have institutions run independently without the interference of people who think they can, you know, use institutions for political, you know, interference. And I think the issue of having a case is not an issue. As long as you are legally within the framework that is provided by not only Chapter 6, but by our law, our constitution, and you have a right and you're Kenyan and you've been shortlisted, yes, go and be vetted. Now, the vetting, if you ask me, is now about competence. Really, it's about competence. So if, and this is what I anticipate or I hope to see in the vetting committee, that the questions that are going to be asked are going to be in relevance with the competence of that person towards whatever docket that they have been given. So when you are looking at Aisha Juma, for instance, you are not going to be asking her, by the way, tulisikia you dropped out of school, then you came back, then you... How is that relevant with now the docket she has been given? If now she is going to be our Minister for Gender and you're vetting her, you're going to be vetting her based on, can she be able to deliver on the agenda in that ministry?
Okay.
So then they should be, you know, trying to figure out, does she have an understanding of what it means to hold a ministry as sensitive as the one that, you know, is going to be dealing with the issues of gender?
Okay.
Does she understand what her role is? Does she have a vision for this country? So I'm hoping, and I really wish that thing was coming to the Senate, because you know,
been
it would have been
part
so nice to be in the vetting committee, because those are the questions we expect them to ask. But if we are going to be subjected, and hopefully not, to questions, because it's like going for an interview and you are applying to be a watchman and people are asking you about menus in the kitchen and can you cut onions and things like that. Yeah,
okay.
Then it is misplaced, and they should not, that should not be a thing that they focus on. They should focus on vetting in terms of competence and if they can deliver as a minister.
You appear to be the dissenting voice on this one. Your last submissions, perhaps the very last one that is going to law, please.
Okay. We shouldn't just write off and say if you have a case or what. We want to have a good state, not a rogue state. Because we also have to build a state that for the future, we have a role to play as legislators. Yes, we know that there are some cases which are politically driven. There are people who found themselves behind bars. Not that they've done anything, but of course for political reasons.
Yeah.
But again, there are also people who've gotten themselves on the wrong side of the law because of actually not being genuine. You know, with sort of lack of integrity. So again, we cannot just say whether you have a case or you don't have a case. What we need to do is, you gave the definition of vetting. Let the individuals come, let them be vetted. And for us also as legislators, we have a responsibility. We cannot just say, I mean, following the discussion from one of the colleagues will say, what can we do as parliament if the names have been brought in? Then what is the role of parliament? Are we flower girls? We are not. So if constitutionally we need to vet the individuals that have been picked by the executive, we need to do a thorough job. And just as per the definition of vetting you talked about, competency of the job, integrity of the person, loyalty, and loyalty not only to the appointing authority, but to the state or to the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, and we're looking forward to that. We have three of you coming into the space of Parliament for the first time. And that is at the Senate and the National Assembly. But Mheshimiwa, I'd want to believe that the activities of the county assemblies would mirror those ones at the National Assembly, and therefore it is not so much so of a new affair for you. Mheshimiwa, perhaps a moment of induction for them as we speak about the 13th Parliament.
Mentorship.
Mentorship.
First and foremost, let me say that in fact the party has done a very good thorough induction. And the members has taken their whole week at Safari Park, been taken through on how the chamber or the house does its tradition. And I think they are very equipped now. And what remains to them is just to become practical on the floor of the house and in the committees. They know very well, and they have understanding that they have a duty at the floor of the house. And the major work is the works at the committee levels. And therefore, that is where because I am sure that one will be able to have one or two committees, and the biggest business is that the committees change. Number three is that, in fact, each and every member represents, and therefore, he has to have a duty to represent the various number of issues from his backyard to the floor of the house, where necessary. And therefore, I believe it's not a big task. All of them, when they ask for this particular job, they must have clue of what is required and how it does operate. And that's why I'm telling you, as much as you have clue of what you expected as a cabinet secretary, it doesn't require rocket science. What it does require is just understanding. And also that once you get there, you have also team, which is technical team also to assist you to prepare the job going forward. So in this particular case, the parliament is very simple. and they have all the necessary documents that can assist them. I think they will be able to go through them. They have the standing orders. They have been available to them. And therefore, they just take time to go through it and familiarize yourself with the standing orders, and then you become as smart as the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's that point of excitement, yes, but you know, the task that lies ahead is quite demanding. Honorable Wanyonyi, your expectations of the 13th Parliament and today as you get to meet the President for the very first time in that joint address, I mean, what are some of the things that you expect that he would bring to the fore?
Of course, I think, yes, I've been, I've been an MCA for 10 years. And so when you read the Constitution, the work of an MCA and the work of Member of Parliament is more or less the same, but working at different levels. Yes, I think the 10 years were able to prepare me well to serve as a Member of Parliament. But second, of course, today is a great day to the people of Kenya. You remember, this is the first election that people did not fight. There was no violence. People voted and went back home and continued with their normal hustles. So I think really Kenyans, of course, even myself, I expect that the President now will be able to unpack our plan and set in motion what really we need in terms of policy and legislative framework. You know, Parliament is the theater of any government in terms of legislation and in terms of moving its agenda forward. So I think really we expect that the President will speak openly and unequivocally on his plan to reduce the price of the basic needs,
right,
the unga, the sabuni ya kidogo hii, and of course, secondly, we also expect that the President also will be very, very clear and bold enough to speak on CDF, which actually has transformed various parts of this country, has seen many, many children going to school and being professors, being doctors. So the President today will be able to clearly give clear direction on the fate of CDF. And of most importance, I think we also expect that the President will be able now to call the country together and call members who are the minority, like Honorable Bissau here, to the call of unity.
It's laughable to even imagine that today we are not sure who. It's not clear who is the minority and who is the majority. We're waiting and looking forward to that.
So we expect the President to really call them to the call of unity, and we move together as one. Elections are now behind us, and we need now to develop this country, and we cannot do it without really all of us coming together, all of us uniting to that common cause, that common goal. And so I think for me, the people of Kenya are expecting so much from the President, and I know, and I have no doubt that he will live true to that expectation. Yeah.
Are you adjusting to the fact that as Azimio, there are likelihoods you would be the minority? And I mean, what would it even be if you are the majority, yet you are not the government? You know, it's a little bit, and the fact that even midway, you'd find that those ones that are the majority today would be declared minority.
It happens, especially like in the state of Israel. You'll find that in most cases, the government is normally the minority. But as it is right now, legally, till probably 9th November, Azimio remains the majority, unless the other person, of course, they've moved physically, but legally they're still in Azimio. So Azimio remains the majority. But that aside, expectations. We expect the President to talk about unity, because as you know, after the election, the country was completely split. Thank God, no violence, but the country was split. So I expect to hear a lot of socio-economic issues, starting with the unity of the country, to the most quick impact projects are made through CDF, and there's been stories about removing CDF. So I also expect the issue to be addressed by the President, so that it's crystal clear if CDF is there or not. And I would also expect no politics. It's purely, as I said, socio-economic. We've been struggling as a country. Where are we? Like in the next 100 days, what should be expected? And of course, as I said, the issue of CDF. Yes.
All right. Allow us to take a short break. Gloria, you are privy to the events of the 12th Parliament and now to the 13th Parliament. We're excited to see how different the affairs will be. Biggest question is just how possible is it for the Kenya Kwanza government and Parliament to hold throughout the 5-year term. We understand the split and of the merger of Jubilee and how much it caused lots of problems at the level of Parliament, and this obviously translated to Kenyans not getting the best of the government that they had picked. And so we come back to as well look at that. I still do not know whether I should engage these members of Parliament on the question of the minority and majority. Perhaps just like us, they are equally waiting to see who's going to be. It is straight, eh? It is all right. Well, after this short break.
Stories. Disability is not only limited to physical disorder, but also mental issue. From depression.
I was under depression for like 2 years.
Bipolar.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder.
And even suicidal thoughts.
When I was just about to hang myself, a certain voice just talked to me, and I believe that was God. I tried suicide more than 6 times.
Beyond the Limit has gone beyond its limit to find answers so as to help everyone go through life with ease. Join Muthoni Maina every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Starting this September at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, The Realtor brings it all to perspective. We identify a property, discuss and demonstrate the journey towards ownership.
Professionals who have integrity, and from their catalog you can easily read that these are professionals who are able to deliver.
Everywhere you go, you have to up your games, you have to go with the trends.
Not forgetting the margins as well as the risks that come along.
The runaway prices of the land. We are saying that it's something that we can never go without mentioning. Any development.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Honorable Bisau, as well as Honorable Wanyonyi, Honorable Jimmy, and Honorable Gloria Odwoba are with us in studio. And so, yes, we're talking about the majority-minority and also the performance of the 12th Parliament. And I know we cannot delve much on the past. I mean, it is to steer forward and see how different the government then handles this. But as well, we cannot stop drawing parallels. We cannot fail to learn from the past that, there was a coalition, if not a merger in Parliament that had formed government. Yes, somewhere on the line, then there's a clear indifference that comes to the fore, and we have factions within this very party, the very party that is supposed to execute its mandate for the people of Kenya. Then they're not able to execute that proper. It goes down to stifling democracy. It goes down to, cutting the processes of development. It goes down to rendering Kenyans asking themselves, did we really get a government, or it was a raw deal? When you equate that, or when you draw parallels from that and look at the Kenya Kwanza government, first of all, what is the guarantee? Do you believe that this government then will hold for the next 5 years?
Before I answer that question, I want to inform, which is weird, I'm informing him, but he's in National Assembly. He should know that the issue of CDF is clear. It is in law.
In GCDF.
Yeah, because the 2013 Act is the one that was declared unconstitutional, and the 2015 Act is very much active and legal. So, no, I mean, even if the president comes to address us otherwise, we have to follow the law. So I think that maybe it is just to give clarity in terms of sensitization, because there has been confusion that CDF in its entirety has actually been declared unconstitutional. That is not the case.
Right.
So,
but I still believe, Gloria, the person who was playing politics is the CS.
All right.
Because actually, it was
confirmation.
Yes. Confirmation
from the president. We know about the CDF
and the NGCDF
and the NGF. We have all those details,
yes,
Madam Senator.
Yes.
But we want the president to talk about it.
Which is what I'm saying. The president can provide clarity. Right. But he can't. Confirmation is within the law. So unless somebody actually goes out and petitions the 2015 Act, even if you seek a legal opinion from the AG who now we have, they will tell you we have a very active act, the 2015 Act, and legally this is what we are using. So that's what I'm saying, that the president can actually provide sensitization from a point of authority, but he cannot confirm or deny because the act is active and it is there. And that is why I'm saying I am surprised that, because as a legislator you should know that when you legislate and it is in law, no one can come and confirm otherwise, because yes, we follow the law.
But we expect him to talk
in any
about
case,
it. Right.
In any case, it would be nice for him to maybe provide assurance, but not to confirm.
And I think I would want to play the devil's advocate.
Yes,
perhaps
maybe,
that's what Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, because you know when you're in opposition, you always need that assurance from government. So he will provide that assurance. You can
be rest assured. Your expectations today.
we said he should talk about it.
Yes.
And we know it's already embedded in law.
It's okay. It's okay. So that's what I'm saying. Confirmation from the president is null and void.
Okay.
He will give sensitization to our fellows in opposition who maybe need that assurance. Yeah, but it is in law. Yeah. So, but when you're talking about, is there a guarantee that this government will?
I'm just trying, yes, to ask just like any other Kenyan would.
I have said this and I have been quoted.
It will
when
hold.
you have the architect of the formation standing with the vision, then it will hold. The issue last time at Jubilee, the architect was kicked out. So the architect was kicked out and he was the architect of the vision. So of course the people who were left in there had no vision. Right. So there was a lot of confusion. And of course there was the issue of the handshake, which our president has been very clear. He's not going to engage in such shenanigans of handshakes. So with all factors put in place, as I have stated, then definitely there is a guarantee that at least for this first term, and I say that because, every other election year provides an opportunity for new governments and new formations to be put. But for now, we have a formation, it's called Kenya Kwanza. The architect of that formation is very much the president. And so there is a guarantee that at the bare minimum, he is going to deliver on the vision that he actually sold to the electorate. So I don't foresee any issues. On the part of majority and minority, like Mheshimiwa here said, even majority, the word means those who are many. So even if
it's a game of numbers.
Yeah, it's a game of numbers.
Right.
Majority in itself as a definition is it's the wenye wako wengi.
Right.
Minority ni wenye wako kidogo. So even if we go and vote today, let us vote who are the majority and who are the minority. Will Azimio actually be able to garner enough numbers of people to go and say how ndio majority? They won't. So
Gloria, you also need to know that we have by-elections, if at all these ones are going to sail through. And some of them are also members of parliament. In the event that, their constituents are taken to a by-election and, by...
Yeah, and then at that point, you can redo the numbers.
Wow.
Yeah, but at this point, the numbers are with Kenya Kwanza. And
are they? Okay.
Yes, and when immediately after the results were announced and opposition ran to court, what our president did is he ran to the independent candidates and he convinced them, guys, we need to work together. We were getting numbers. And
are you confirming that it's the president who reached out to them? Because this also has been a question. And
in his capacity as the party leader, because he is also the party leader. And as a party leader, you are trying to ensure that your party
and he's been
majority.
Castigated for that, you know that this could be against the Political Parties Act, this could be against, the electoral laws, yet you still go and try.
The only thing that I think he did wrong, and this I can say because being in the same camp does not mean that that you can't criticize. He always
For the
says,
first
he always, I always
Wait until you listen to what it is
I
that she
always
wants
criticize.
to.
I always criticize. And I would say the only thing that William Ruto as the party leader did wrong is that he allowed for you people, the media, to be in that space when he was reaching out to this, because what then that did is that even before those who are being persuaded were persuaded, the moment
was all out.
It was all out. That's the thing he did wrong. But whether he persuaded them before or persuaded them after November, he persuaded them. It's the bottom line.
Okay.
So like my co-panelist is saying here, that we can either play the waiting game till November when they officially leave their political parties to join Kenya Kwanza officially. Even if right now we sit and play the waiting game till November, anything that requires a vote between now and November, Kenya Kwanza will have their way. So really, what are you curing? You know, what are you, ni ile kitu umewachwa, uliwachwa kitambo, but woye, wacha tu tufike anniversary ndio tuseme tumeachwa. I mean, the numbers will remain the same now as they will be in November when they officially leave.
Okay.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with persuading someone to join your political divide.
November the 9th.
It's actually within the constitution that you persuade people to come and join you.
And that you will tell me right to association.
Right to association.
Rida, I would just carry the same sentiment with the Gororia, that the position of the House, what matters, and what dignifies the minority and majority, is obvious the numbers. And if the Speaker has to be solomonic, he will just roll the ball back to the members. Let the members count themselves. And then the number will declare who are majority in the floor and who are minority. As simple as that. He does not require to engage himself too much or to labor too much on it. Yes, let him throw back the ball to the little people. Because you cannot claim to have majority outside. It has to be justified on the floor. And let the floor speak by itself. And also, going to the other issues that the Gururi has been talking about, let me also say that the Kenya Kwanza breakout can be not of very soon. Because for sure, one is that in fact what matters is that this political deceit, this political conmanship, it has been there before, but the leadership has learned a lot out of it. William Ruto has been a and I believe that in fact having now the person who at the steering on this particular Kenya Kwanza government, he has gone through a lot of market road, and therefore I believe what he must do is to fulfill. And the fulfillment, we have seen it right from the beginning. We have seen how the rollout of the cabinet has come out. It has represented the face of those other affiliate parties, which to me is a good plus, because if you promised people that actually they will be part of your government, then it has been practically seen. And we have seen them being given opportunities in that particular government. Going forward, even the rest of the positions that are not yet unfurled, I still believe those particular thematic areas has to be also considered. And therefore, the breakout cannot come very soon. It's only that if you have a partner who has a hidden agenda or ill motive, who can only come in and try to bring things otherwise. But if every other team which is part of the team has a goodwill to propel this particular government, I think the head of state has alluded himself and has pronounced himself to be fulfilling his promises. And if that's done right from the beginning, I don't see any other woods that will arise in the middle. What will matter now is whoever will get an opportunity to serve this government must also know and get understanding that William Ruto can only be able to win this battle if that team works together and gives the best support he can, and they become hard work people. We don't want to have a cabinet that is always there sitting in office and just not making Kenyans know or understand what is happening there. And I think that is why majorly he has put a face of a number of political areas who has a know-how on what the blueprints of the party or the coalition is,
Yeah.
and who can be able to share this particular blueprint very quickly to the common Mwananchi there outside. I believe that in fact technical people are also important, but sometimes they fail the government because they does not give out what actually they does cook in that kitchen. It is of important Kenyans to get understanding what is happening today on a daily basis, probably what are the intentions, what are these ministries intending to do, and I think that is what politics are rooted. And somebody who has been in politics, and the intention of changing the standing orders for the ministers to be answering questions at the floor of the house. Also, we will need somebody with guts to stand on the floor of the house and respond to the members of parliament.
All right.
So I believe that's another way of connecting the political wing and the cabinet, which actually the year before, it has been a big task to connect between responses from the cabinet through chairmanship of the committees and then to the house, because sometimes you don't get the correct answer. But if you are being responded by the cabinet minister directly, you will be able to pin him on the floor and he will be able to give you the correct answer that you require.
All right, fair enough. Honorable Wanyonyi, you argue that yes, and I mean it's not you, it's a fact that we do not have this talk of opposition. Instead, it's a minority versus majority at the level of parliament. But can we totally overlook that aspect, that there are members that will be playing the opposition? And I mean, it's evident. We have seen the Opio and Dais of today and the arguments. I will not ask Honorable Bissau whether Azimio One Kenya will hold, because as it stands, it is clear that...
Please ask him. Ask him whether
they are okay, well, he will get to respond to that.
Ask me also if Kenya Kwanza will hold.
All right, so Honorable Wanyonyi first, and then we come to the very same question. Don't you think we'll get to a space where then definitely we have to allow that space, that latitude for us to have some members that will play that role of opposition in terms of keeping the government check?
I think let me first speak on this issue of minority and majority. When you read our standing orders, when you're forming the leadership of the House, you either form it through party way or through the coalition way. And in terms of our standing orders, and in the context of Azimio, do you know Azimio, if you go the party way, Azimio does not have a single member of parliament.
Not one.
So that is not even...
It's a political party with no members.
So it's not even a parliamentary party. So that when you want to form a leadership, it does not feature anywhere.
Okay.
Coalition way is not a coalition. It is a party of coalitions, which in terms of the standing orders is not even recognized. It's a coalition of parties. Right. It's not even a coalition of parties. It's a party of coalition parties.
Agreements.
Yes. You see,
there is a
coalition. So realize, Linda, so realize either way, Kenya Kwanza is a majority. When you go the party way, our majority party within Kenya Kwanza, which is UDA, has more than 140 members of parliament. So it's the majority. ODM has slightly less than 100. So either way, when you go the party way, we have the majority. When you go the coalition way, we only have one coalition in parliament.
Yes.
As far as the standing orders and the coalition is concerned.
Okay.
So the challenge that Azimio faced, they crafted something that they did not, or they crafted something of now. But they did not really foresee the future and also underpin it within the standing orders. So let's see how it works out. But secondly, of course, in terms of Kenya Kwanza holding, for me, that cannot be said. Kenya Kwanza is going to hold. It's only people who do not read from the history are the ones who risk the risk of repeating that history. Our president is a good student of history. He has learned on what happened to him under Jubilee, and I'm so sure he cannot allow that to repeat. And that's why he has insisted every time and again that whatever he went through as deputy president, he cannot allow his own deputy to go through that. And for me, and that's why again you've seen even in terms of the formation of government, or rather the formation of cabinet, he has tried as much as he can, as it's practically possible, to bring on board many people that he has worked this journey with, and so that he can now engage them Unajua ukiwa hapo nje kelele, unaweza piga kelele kidogo. Being in the government, being means they will not have the luxury of time to think contrary to what Kenya Kwanza wants to deliver. So I think really he has a clear strategy, a clear plan of holding this coalition together beyond these 5 years, 10 years. And I'm seeing even the way, when you look at the way he's behaving and working, he has a plan beyond the 10 years. And so if Honorable Bissau are expecting anything otherwise of this coalition holding, I think
aside from the plan being beyond 10 years, it is clear that it's in his best interest to have the 5 years proper if he has to guarantee himself the next, term. And therefore, based on this, and as Gloria would say, he's the vision bearer, then maybe he will pull up his socks proper to make sure that this coalition then holds. Why would you want to argue? Okay, well, do you think it will hold or not? He has no choice.
The government has to deliver within 5 years.
And
that to assure itself for 10 years.
Yes.
It has to deliver the first 5.
Okay.
There's no choice.
All right. So, Mheshimiwa, you think they will hold? And is Azimio One Kenya going to?
Linda, as a Kenyan, it would be very wrong, in fact, if you look at it where you're sitting on this side and you're wishing that family breaks. It's not a good approach. Okay? So, to be very frank, we've gotten into these roles. Nobody, in fact, if you asked Mheshimiwa Gekaria that like 2 months ago, he didn't know if he would be in government or be in opposition. Same to me. So we found ourselves where we are and we must play our role. So sitting on this side, we will not be saying we wish that they break. We wish to hold them together, but what I only want to say, and I can see the new ones, the new kids on the block like Senator Gloria, when they come in, they're throwing a lot of punches. But it's not only the cabinet that needs to make this succeed, even the parliamentarians. The senators, an example, like Mheshimiwa Gloria. We have to talk unity. We have to play our role that we've been given, the legislative role. Like an example, when you're talking of vetting, there has to be proper vetting. You morally, as a Kenyan, as a leader who's been given that responsibility, what role are you playing? 2, you've heard the term, history repeats itself. We've seen when governments are formed, new government, there's a lot of excitement. There are those new ones, especially on the executive side,
right,
or on the government side where there is the winning party. They'll come in studio, they'll throw a lot of punches. But we've seen things change. And again, historically in this country, since independence, and especially after multi-party. The following election, there's normally a lot of shifts.
Right.
Who would ever imagine that the Prime Minister would work with Uhuru? Who would ever imagine that Musalia or Wetangula would work with William? I remember playing a role at some point when there was the Kibera by-election, talking to Mheshimiwa Wetangula and Mheshimiwa Musalia that should we unite, because I was on the current president's side. So these things keep on shifting. But to me, whatever side of the divide you find yourself, please work for the interest of the Kenyans.
Right.
Don't just go, with party emotions and throwing jabs because history will hold yourself. I mean, will hold you to account. So by and large, we'll work together. And as I said in the studio, I am not going to oppose bills for the sake of opposing. I'll oppose bills if completely they don't fit, the expectation, the objective. But if it's a bill that supports the Kenyan interest, the Kenyan people interest, the humanitarian aspect, the social, economic aspect, I will support it. I'm not just going to sit there to oppose for the sake of opposing, okay? So we'll do this, in leadership.
It's clearly not be an amateur.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
So tutafanya kazi kufuatana na vile tumechaguliwa. We've been sent by the good people of Kiminini, and I'll play my role as a legislator.
All right.
Yeah? Because they'll hold me to account in the next few months. 5 years is not a long time. So by and large, it's not only the cabinet that is going to make this government succeed, but also the legislators and the role they play. And I'm listening to Mheshimiwa Bazu, you can see that from the experience, he holds together. He tries to massage.
Yeah.
He realizes that we are all Kenyans, despite our political divide. At some point, we were together. Being the advisor of infrastructure, several times we visited his county, sub-county, to launch roads and all these things. So we still Kenyans by the end of the day. So whatever we do, let it be for the interest of our people, our children and future generations.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
Rita, those are
I would like to...
We'll come to you, Mheshimiwa, yes.
I would like to address one thing. I'm a very proud amateur in politics. Yeah. Very proud to be new. You know why? Because what he's calling throwing punches is the zeal we bring to the floor of the house. And you know, when you sit somewhere for too long, manza kuchapa. And then when you see new energy coming in, you think it's punches. You get worried. It's not punches.
It's also his first in parliament.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why is it his first in parliament, but he's talking like a third termer. And I want to say this:
global
we are
global experience. All right,
it's okay. International experience. I'm sitting here in my capacity as a manager for Facebook as well, a whole country. Yeah.
Then was it Denmark?
So yes. My issue is, and this is the issue in ODM. You see them fighting about leadership and Babu Wino and my desk mate in Naivasha was Senator Oburu Oginga, you know. This is the issue. Because they don't, you know, you see young people full of energy, full of new ideas, and the first thing you want to do is put them off.
Was it not on a lighter note, Gloria?
No, it's always on a lighter note until it's a culture.
Okay.
And then the culture is engraved. And then what happens with the youth when they get in is they get this negative energy of, umeanza tu na nini we ngoja tutakufundisha. No. Me, I want to sit here and encourage the youth. You know, we were laughing with you when this show started because you were like honorable senator and we were laughing. We were laughing because for 3 years I've been here advocating for the youth, making noise.
But
and
deep
blah,
down,
blah, blah. And I vied in Bobasi here. And the thing is, this should be treated as a success story to encourage other youth to come with the zeal into politics. And that's why I'm very sensitive around conversations that demean newcomers. And every time I sit with a new legislator in parliament or in Senate, I'm so excited to be in that space because I'm like, you know, now we're going to bring new ideas and what. Because that is what this country needs. And I believe that is also what my party leader saw in me. And he was like, this one, we can put her in the Senate. Let's see what ideas she comes up with her background and what. And I'm glad that now we are talking about unity, because had this been the other way around, that Azimio would have been in government and Kenya Kwanza would have been outside, you can be sure this unity that they're pushing, that even it started with BBI and this unity. Politically, there is democracy, and people, and particularly how the constitution has actually been crafted, is to encourage that you criticize the other side. Whichever side you are, criticize the other side, criticize yourself. And that's not positive criticism. That is not
positive criticism. Don't just
listen, that is not divisivism. That's actually, when I sit here and people ask me about the 50% women, we are not, we engage on a level of, it should have been 11, but it's criticism. So when I'm saying that, giving my opinions, I think one of the things that also, tupone tu Azimio tupone, now you are in opposition and there is a government, let's just move to the next stage, which is now keeping government in check. Opposition, keep government in check. And the government push your agenda and push the ideas that you sold to the electorate. And newcomers, please, don't feel threatened or intimidated. When people tell you, umekuja na energy after 2 years, don't. In fact, me, I'm telling you and I promise you, and in 5 years, and I would like to meet my Mheshimiwa in 5 years, I'm going to have the same energy and I'm going to have the same zeal. And because I'm going back to Bobasi constituency to vie. So I think important message for the youth. Don't musizime your zeal.
All right, all the best. And we're watching Gloria Ogoba because we also are so excited about the 12th
Thank you.
And the fact that we had lots of youth, but I don't know whether we generally feel like they represented as we would have expected. Mheshimiwa, you wanted to say something small about that, or Gloria has?
She had just summed it, but though on that aspect, I would just want to urge the fraternity of youth family that there is no time that is youth time. All opportunities are available for them. Go grab them. then there's nobody who will just knock your door to wake up you to go to take up a certain opportunity. So grab the opportunities because they are out there, and don't wait until that actually one will knock the door to you. So the opportunity are out there, and actually there is that flexibility. Just go grab them. There is various number of opportunities, but actually I do blame youth and sometimes because I realize that they are insisting, most of them insist to go get those white collar job, which are no longer there. Then what we must do is to adopt the situation as is, and what we must do is go Kebaki way. Let us do what is available. Let us work in a job that's available. Don't say that because you are an engineer, until when you get an engineer job, it's only when you just get out of the house and work. Just engage and do what's available, because that is what will make you drive, and that will make you thrive. And the youth of today, actually, they have a big task, because you understand that, in fact, they are the people who take the succession. And they can only grab the succession when they are up to it, not when they are idle. So let them wake up, let them grab the opportunities, because what the government required to do is to give them a neighboring environment so that they can tap what is available for them.
Well put. Members of the bicameral House, with your blessings, I will close it at this very point unless we have parting shots. And if we have parting shots, then I'll be required to take a quick break and then we come back for the same. Do you agree that we close, or would love to have final submissions? As we look forward to today, I think that is to tell me that we close it at this very point. Asante Sana, Honorable Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Honorable James Gakuya, Honorable Gloria Oroba, nominated Senator, as well as Honorable Martin Wanyonyi, Member of Parliament, Webuye East, and lastly, Member of Parliament of Kiminini, Honorable Bisau Kakai. It was an honor having the four of you here. We're looking forward to today and many other times of the 13th Parliament. And of course, looking forward to host you some more